Welcome back to BB Uncut, where we talk about health, wellness, and everything in between. Today I've got Tom joining us, and I'm really excited for a few different reasons. Welcome to the podcast, Tom.
Thank you.
So today we're going to be talking about things that you guys don't know about, a bit behind the scenes of Balanced Beings, why we haven't been doing any podcasts for at least 6 months, which is a crazy number when we were doing them every single fortnight for you guys, and a bit about Tom and his role and how he stepped into Balanced Beings and a bit about why. So Tom, tell everyone a bit more about yourself and who you are and a bit of your background and our background.
Fair enough. Well, obviously I'm your partner.
But people wouldn't know that.
Yeah, I know. So I joined Balanced Beans at the end of, not last year, year before, 2024, like December 2024. And basically to take on like a management style role. Mm-hmm. And I was, based on my history, I've got like, my dad put a lot of, he's like a finance person in his past life, and he raised me up with a lot of like financial acumen. And then I was running my own business, which I still am now as well, which is Mobile Logica, an IT business. I've been in IT for the last 12 years. And so I've been part of that company for 12 years and then moved into directorship and ownership a couple of years ago. And from there, basically that alignment made sense at the time to join on. And so we've been together and then working together for
everyone's like, how are you doing it?
A year and a half actually, almost now.
Yeah, and it's so crazy because I remember like when everything was going really good in BB, I was like, you should come and join. Like, you know, I feel like me and Tom have very different backgrounds. Like his disadvantages and his cons are my pros and my cons are his pros. And I think that's why we work really well together. Like if we were both very similar people, I don't think that there would be benefit of him joining BB. But I feel like you kind of had the things I needed. And like I wanted him to join way before when he did, and he kind of like, how did you take that?
Not very well, to be honest.
Not well at all. You were so mad at me for asking. Yeah. We had a fight about it.
You know, we did have a fight about it. You kind of like had asked for me to join, but at the time I was still running my company and I was quite busy at that time, at least with it. And then you're running yours and you're like, oh, I want you to join mine. And I didn't need to, but I was taking it like offensively, going, well, you're thinking yours is more worthwhile for me to put my time and effort into than mine. And that was my approach, which wasn't appropriate, and that wasn't what you're asking at all, which I know now, obviously. But that was kind of the reason I was a bit hesitant at the start. And as you said, it does actually work very well, because exactly what I'm bad at, like entrepreneurially, the thing that I'm the worst at is like the pushing forward and the creativity. Like, okay, this is the idea, let's just start, let's go, let's not stop and just put it out there. And I'm that person who's, let's try and make it a little more perfect and whatnot, which is...
You're so slow moving and accurate, and it's very frustrating.
But I'm also very accurate when it needs to be, which is something that you're not as good at.
I'm just like, good, done is good.
Done is good, yeah, but then you don't revisit it, which is my pet peeve. And so I go revisit everything.
Let's do this again, let's fix this. No, I've already done that, I'm not doing it again.
Yeah, so I go do it again.
Literally.
But you're right, that does work really well.
So I guess the point which everyone's going to want to know is like, what was the tipping point of you joining BB? So I thought I would open up a bit more about that and what kind of happened. So back in like the end of 2024, we had a really bad tipping point at BB where there was this like management that I didn't know how it was running, what was being said behind my back. Like a lot of stuff kind of went down. We lost employees that randomly left without, like resigned and never came back. Like, you know, after they'd been in the company for 2 years or more. So, you know, obviously like very disheartening. Like I put all my effort and time into that, and like I was at a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I was vomiting, I was throwing up, I was having panic attacks, I wasn't functioning. Like at all. Like, and Tom obviously saw me in that state because he was my partner, and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I can't face tomorrow. Like it was in a really bad place. Seeing a psychologist, like I later, like I've been diagnosed with PTSD from this experience. So like nightmares, you know, having lots of flashbacks. It's been honestly something that that's the reason that we have stopped the podcast, because I couldn't do everything, and like something had to give. I can't function. I couldn't do anything. I was like, my daily quality of living was impacted. I wasn't eating.
Phone calls would trigger you like there was no tomorrow.
Like I couldn't do any Google chat. I couldn't answer any phone calls. Like everything was very too much. And I mean, like, it's been like a slow burn since, like, slow build back to normal, I feel like. And so when you're not coping and you're completely burnt out and fatigued and you can't do it anymore, like, something has to give. And I was at that point where I was like, no, like, I can't do this anymore. It's like I am at a point where I can't even get out of bed the next day. And that's when, like, Tom's like, nope, you're not giving up. You're not doing this. I will step in and I will do what I need to do so that you can keep doing what you actually love, which is, like, I want to help people. The reason I started the whole company was to help people, not to manage them. I don't want to manage. I don't want to grow the company. I just want to help people. And, like, at the end of the day, like, that's what I want to do. And that is really what I couldn't end up doing because I was too busy managing and dealing with constant problems that would happen. And I guess that's where you stepped in and dealt with those. So take everyone through the experience of where the company was when you took over and kind of where it is now.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up pretty well. It was like just a really bad time for you. And it was unfortunate because a lot of people don't see the side that I was seeing at that time, where you were putting, like, your heart and soul into trying to keep everyone happy while keeping the company functional. And that's something that most people in general don't see in business owners. It's like, most of the time, I mean, I won't say all of the time because you do get bad business owners, but most of the time business owners actually want the best for them, the business, the people in the company, the people the company is servicing, like our clients or patients at that point. And you were really putting your heart and soul into every part of this. And it just wasn't either coming across to certain people, or I don't know what it was, but it could have just been skill set misalignment, right? I mean, not everyone's supposed to be managing people, and I mean, you're very good at, like, that pushing and that boundary pushing and the creative side, and I just don't think managing people is where your talents lie. And so that misalignment didn't let them understand that you were doing all this for everyone, and so it just led down a bad path. And when I could see that was the case and that was the problem, and you're like, yeah, I can't do this anymore, I was like, well, the company's not a company you want to sell. Like, it was a good company, it was doing you very well. Selling it was not going to be a good idea for a multitude of reasons. Yeah. And we've talked about that previously, why it would have been such a bad idea to try and sell that. And so, yeah, I mean, I think as we said, talents are opposite to yours, in which case people management, I mean, look, I'm not a person's by any means, but being able to manage structure and things like that, because I don't want to misuse the word OCD here, but, like, I'm a bit of an OCD style person. People describe me as OCD. So that kind of structure was what was needed. And then at that point in time, to be honest, also just a third party, someone to come in, and because tensions were kind of high in the company, me coming in to kind of go, okay, what's your opinion? I mean, it's like when our kids fight. Yeah. We separate them, we go, Indy, what happened? Yeah. And then we go, Sterling, what happened? And that's kind of what my initial entrance into the company was, exactly that. I came in and I went, okay, to every employee, what's the case? Well, what do you think's the problem? Because often people don't listen. And just, like, giving them the opportunity, and I gave them all a lot of opportunity to go, these are the things I like, these are the things I don't like. And I was like, okay, cool, I've got a list.
And I think the problem that people don't realize is to be a good manager is to have boundaries. And the problem was I was trying to be so nice and helpful to people that boundary would then overstep, and then because that boundary would overstep, I would then have to enforce, like,
something
consequences.
Else bad, yeah.
Right? And so, like, if I just had a proper boundary in place to not allow that boundary to be overstepped, then there wouldn't be consequences that I look like the asshole. And so I think people need to remember that, like, being a good manager is having boundaries and having things that don't just get overstepped because that employee doesn't want that. And, like, it needs to be the same for everyone.
And making it really clear and understood. Like, again, it seems weird that I compare parenting to managing a lot, but I mean, parenting is just kind of managing your children, right? And obviously children and staff are not the same thing by any means. But when you're talking about, like, how you would deal with kids, I'd say the same thing. Is I can't be angry at someone if they go and do something that I don't want them to do, but I never told them I don't want them to do that.
Yeah.
So making sure that's really structurally clear, like, these are the things you should do, these are the things you shouldn't do. And then everyone kind of is on the same page. And, well, then boundaries don't get pushed really that often because everyone understands. And normally people do follow those boundaries when it's very clear.
Yeah. And, like, going back to BB and where it was actually at, we've spent the last 18 months just building the bricks. So take us through like where it was versus where it is now, and that analogy that you kind of used with me, that we couldn't scale, why we couldn't scale.
Yeah, I mean, the company was in that place where we needed to stabilize definitely at the start. But I mean, my goal from coming in and what we had decided from discussing it was we still did want to scale. And really I'm going to use analogies because I like analogies. I know a lot of people use analogies well. I know you don't like them, so I apologize. But the analogy of kind of like the wobbly house, like Balanced Beans had this amazing brand name. It was helping tons of people. We had some really good naturopaths and things were going really well. And so it had built quite high of a building, I guess. But the issue was every single task or every single job was in someone's head. There was no structure to the purpose of, okay, if one of the people is sick today, well, what jobs does she do? Oh, I don't know. And then things wouldn't kind of work very well from that.
Like if someone needed something drop shipped to a client and that person was sick, then they didn't have a communication to write that down for someone else. They would have had to mention that in their sick day, which isn't okay. If they left and never came back, whose orders needed to go out?
There's no tracking of that, 100%. And so making it really clear.
Even the AusPost thing you should mention.
Yeah, the AusPost thing I'll say in a sec. So I mean, with all of these things, right, we had to go back from scratch. And so when I started, as I said, I had these conversations with everyone. I found a really clear list of what needed to change. And then I said, okay, everyone keep going. Just keep doing what you're doing. And then I would go and insert myself into everyone's role. Obviously not a naturopath, I can't go see patients by any means, but I would try and insert myself into different people's positions and go through what their tasks looked like for them at that point. And then I'd get a deeper understanding of where their friction points was, the complaints they said to me. I would then really understand what is the problem, what's the cause of the problem, and like, how can I possibly fix this? And after that, it was basically, I would go from start to end and I'd spend maybe a month and I'd work on one single pillar. And that, I think for me at the start, was mostly admin-based pillars. And it would be, okay, cool, this is one of the things, there's a problem, here's a friction point, how do we fix it? And as you're saying, the AusPost one was a really good example where at that point in time, every time we wanted to ship things out, and this worked up until that point because we weren't dealing with massive amounts of orders, where they would go, okay, here's our Shopify, which is the platform that we use, the order, and when they wanted to ship that using AusPost, we had a business AusPost account. They'd have to go and copy that person's name and put it into AusPost eSend, and then copy the address and put it into AusPost eSend, and then double check it because sometimes they did make mistakes on that.
How do you do it now?
And yeah, well, that was terrible when we started scaling, right? As soon as those numbers started going into the dozens a day, that didn't work at all. And it was so time wasteful and problematic for errors. So I went back and I started from the scratch, and we've now got a contract with AusPost specifically so that we can use an API. I'll avoid the fancy techy terms, but they're basically an integration that we work with AusPost where our internal systems that we use to manage our orders and Shopify and all of that, just talk to AusPost directly, and within Shopify, we just say print label, and it will print a label for us. All they've got to do is say the size of the box and how much it weighs.
There's no integration to AusPost. It's always done through Shopify, which is crazy. That saves 4 hours a week. So the amount of wages we've saved and things we've changed, that all is because we've done all of that through like integrations, and that's how we've increased staff happiness. We might have reduced staff hours and the amount of burnout and fatigue they're putting in, but they're getting paid better than they were previously, right? So it's kind of like we're not earning more money from these changes. We've put them back into staff happiness and quality in the company to then have those better foundations, which is part of the foundations, right? Is not having a high staff turnover.
Yeah, well, and staff happiness also leads to, I mean, it all feeds into each other. It's the opposite of a negative cycle, right? It's a positive cycle. And so as the staff are happier, they're making less errors as well due to these changes, then they're going to be happier, they're going to be more efficient because generally those two do actually correlate. And then that ends up being better for the clients as well because the clients are then, well, they're never going to have to come back to us and say, oh, your order's wrong or it's delayed or something like that. Like, it's efficient and then they get everything when they wanted it. I mean, like, when I order something on Amazon and I click order and it arrives the next day, I'm always so stoked because I'm like, oh, that's so efficient and great. And I have a great customer experience based around the fact that it's efficient, and I get better outcome from that, and I'm more likely to use them again in the future. And so that same thing applies to us.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing that I absolutely love, but it's so scary changing things and changing softwares, because for me, I was like, I don't want to change something, because then that's something staff have to learn new, and then if they're learning something new and it doesn't work, then that's not a good feeling either. And so that was one of my scariest points of last year, is everything changed. We changed everything. We even changed our whole software that every single client was on. So we were importing thousands of patients' files into a new software so we could have appointments the following week. That was probably the scariest thing that we done. So we integrated from Clinico to Practice Better. That was completely life-changing for our practitioners' burnout. So we completely changed that. So we didn't change the hours or the amount that they got paid. That will stay the same, but they're saving hours every single week now, so there's no burnout. So what we did is we used to do treatment plans, and yeah, we'd have handouts. They write their own treatment plans, but now we have something called snippets, which I integrated. Spent about 50 hours putting snippets in. So if someone's got high copper on their results, you write in high copper, and then the explanation of high copper comes up. If they want pre and probiotic foods on their treatment plan, they write in prebiotic, and the pre and probiotic automation of the foods that the client should be having comes up for the treatment plan. So this has definitely been the biggest game changer. Is just the last 18 months we haven't scaled, we haven't got more naturopaths, because we've been fixing everything internally so we can actually scale and not have the whole building fall over.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that was one of the important things, and is something that we had to go through a few times, because you get worried when we weren't growing. And you're like, well, it's been 6 months, Tom, you're still here, nothing's changed, why is that happening? And it's a difficult conversation, I guess, because it was exactly what you say. We really need to not grow, because if we grow, we're going to topple the building over. We really need to get these proper pillars in place where, I mean, if tomorrow we get an extra 1,000 clients, is it possible for us to just hire and know that people are going to be able to start and take over those roles? Yes, then cool, then we're ready to scale. If the answer is no, then stop. Don't keep going. Yeah. Make sure everything's correct and proper, and like all these basic things are in place before you start taking those big steps.
And I feel like the company wasn't sustainable in its current form. And I'm grateful we haven't scaled in the last 18 months. You know, it sucks not earning more money. But at the end of the day, what's more important is actually having a company that's sustainable and is going to be able to grow in the future. I think that it was just a matter of time that Balance Beings was going to fall apart with the lack of procedures and whatnot. Like, a company is just lucky until it's unlucky. If you don't have policies, procedures, HR, you're not running the company properly, you know, if you're an naturopath that's got contractors, it's only a matter of time that things catch up to you. You need to do it properly. And that's where Tom came in and just, you know, we have everything now. Like, anyone in the company can leave and we can hire the next day and we can be fine, because everything is done properly. Not just examples, but like, we created a whole training platform so everyone knows how to do every single task. So not only do we have a policy and procedure, we have how to do every single task in the whole company, from clinic manager to the naturopaths. Everyone knows how to run, and everyone, like, that's crazy. The fact that we have got the company in such a great place that anything can happen and everything will be fine, and that's such a nice feeling to know that we've put all that work in. Yeah. Even going back to like where we were when Tom was like hired, not hired because you don't get paid in that way. Joined BB is we didn't even have stock ordering systems where we counted stock. We'd have someone came in, they would have a look. Oh yeah, we used astragalus today, we used withania, we used L-theanine, let's order them in. Well, if they were sick, how do we know what they used up that day? We don't. And I think that like it was in such a delicate, fragile position, but like also I had bought a clinic. The clinic, that's $5,000 a month in a mortgage repayment, not even my own personal expenses that I, as a single mum, have 2 kids, you know, in private school, all of that. That's a lot to rely off a fragile company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the fact that they would have eventually fallen apart at some point.
Fragile is a good way to put it too.
It was fragile.
Yeah, and fragile being that like one small stone could have broken it.
Yep.
And that was basically what had happened at the time that I did join, right? And it was kind of shattering, and we just taped it up for a couple months while we fixed everything. Yep. And then we started fixing everything, and we obviously went through still, I mean, even last year was by no means a smooth ride while we were changing this. Like, as we're making these changes, no one's perfect. We're going to make lots of mistakes, right? And some of the changes we've undone, like lots of the suggestions I put in place have been undone. But I think the important thing was that
we need to learn from that.
Yeah, well, we need to make the change. Oh, okay, that doesn't work. That other way that we were doing it was the best way. We know that now.
Yeah.
And like being willing to make those mistakes in a place where it's not going to crumble everything.
Yes.
And then learning from it and being quick about it too. Being, oh, this isn't working, change back. Or this isn't working, let's change now and test and retest and retest.
And the other thing that I absolutely love, what you explained to me when I was when you first joined was, if you've got a company right now and you've got, 5 staff, or you've got 10 staff, you've got 20 staff, but you're still running it like a sole trader, as in like your policies and procedures aren't different as they were when you were a sole trader, you're doing it wrong. And I think that like I was just a sole trader that hired people, and then they figured out their own jobs and I taught them how to do that job. But as soon as they left, I had to deal with the burden of not just hiring, but training that new staff up, right? And so if you are at the point where you or someone else has to figure out how to train that new person up, then you probably need to look at your policies and procedures and your training and all of that. Like obviously, like ghosting someone for a day, where you're shadowing someone for a day is completely different to training them up.
Ghosting.
You ghosted me. And I think that was a really good analogy. Like I was just a sole trader that had 10 staff.
Yeah.
I wasn't a company that had policies, procedures, everything in place, everything protected. Like,
I mean, I've heard a lot of people use this, like a lot of business owners, where they go, okay, well, a great way to see if you have a company or if you have a glorified job is leave for a week.
Yep.
If you go away for a week, is everything going to be, I mean, it's never going to be as good as if you're there. Obviously, you're another hands-on, but is it going to survive? And if the answer is no, you just got a job.
And I think the other thing you've got to remember is when you put someone in management, they actually have to have management background and they have to have the understanding, because you can't have things hidden from you that you don't know about your own company. Like one of the reasons that the company fell apart is because I didn't know what was going on. I wasn't being told everything.
Yeah.
I was just like left in the dark because they didn't want to tell me problems, because I didn't want that to be a burden to me. And that's partly my fault, partly other people's fault. But at the end of the day, management, you either need to have a really good manager where they've got that management background, they know how to be a manager, they know how to bring up problems to you and have that conflict, or you need to be the person that is the manager in the company. I think that I definitely did that wrong, and that is definitely part of the reason why the company was falling apart when you joined.
I think it's something most companies get wrong though, and sometimes it does just take like one bad experience on doing this the wrong way to learn the lesson. But as you said, not everyone is a manager, and you shouldn't be just going, oh, okay, well, like for not our company, but in another company, oh, you've worked in this company for 10 years, now you move up and you become a man. Well, no, not really. Maybe they're really good at that job. That doesn't mean they're going to be really good at managing people, because it's a very different skill set.
I find it interesting when people are like, it's not fair, I've been in the company for 10 years and they hired someone else for the role. That's part of it though. Like, you've been in the company for 10 years, but do you know how to be a manager? Because being a manager versus being an employee is completely different. And if you don't have those skill set, you will fail in that role. Yeah. It's completely different than just being with the company for 10 years. Yes, that's your natural progression. It's not always that way. And that's my answer when people say, well, I've been in that, why did they hire someone for that role when that I should have been the one that got that leadership role? Maybe you're not suitable for the leadership role.
Yeah, and in saying that...
not everyone is. Like, I'm not a manager.
I was going to say, it doesn't have to be demonized. Like, if you're not that role, that's fine. You can still be ultra successful in doing the thing that you're good at. Like, you don't need to be a manager. Not everyone needs to be a manager. Lots of business owners aren't very good managers. Literally
and
you.
I'm very
right?
I'm way too empathetic and caring, and in that sense that, like, I want to push against the boundaries. Oh, you can't work here because you're having another baby. Why don't you just come and work with us once a month? Where you'd be like, no, we're not doing that. That is not good for the company. That's not good for client care. They can't just work here once a month. Whereas I would always push boundaries, and that's part of why the company is fragile, is because I'd push boundaries to help people because I am so empathetic, and then that becomes the negative.
I was going to say, ironically, it helps people less by letting that be stepped all over, right?
And that's why I'm not a good manager.
In summary.
I'm too delicate. And so what I wanted to ask you is, most people obviously wouldn't hire their partner. Would you recommend it? And how has our relationship and our life been since you've been working with us?
I mean, I think I wouldn't say a blanket no to most to everyone, but I would say to most people probably not. I think our particular situation is a bit unique where not only was I coming into this relationship and then we started managing a company together, but obviously I have no kids and you have two. I was also coming in and becoming a stepdad at the same time,
we have so much strain on our
yeah,
relationship.
I was going to say it's like a stacking effect, right? And so we have this one strain, and I'm not saying strain in a bad way, just it's another tension in the relationship, right? Is that we have to deal with how do we raise kids together, what are the roles, and how does this work specifically because they're not mine. And then with the company, it's like, okay, that's a bit more, we have to cut very clear boundaries. What job is yours? What job is mine? When do I get to make decisions? When do you get to make decisions? And obviously it's also up to that point because you've always been a sole owner. I think this is probably something that was a very big change for you, that you'd been a sole owner, sole manager, and I want to make this decision. You just make that decision.
Yeah.
And there was never any, I need to have a good reason to make the decision. I have to explain that decision to anyone. And me coming on board was...
But why?
Was difficult because, I would go, okay, well, I understand that's the decision you want to make. Why are we making that decision?
Because I know
that the best decision?
One that works.
And that was your response at the start, right? Is you just got annoyed at that. And we've obviously grown massively since when we'd have arguments over just simple things like that. But that was really important. And thankfully, in my background, I joined the company that I was running. So I wasn't the creator. I wasn't the original person. I only am 50% director with another director there.
Yeah.
And so I was used to that. Okay, well, we'll push back. And it was also quite a different environment, to be honest, because it's an IT background. It's an all-male company just by nature of the fact that it's an IT. There's more guys there. And so the whole relationship dynamic in all of those places was highly different. So coming into this, and then that created this friction with us. And I had to get used to managing a different style of company in a wellness industry as opposed to IT.
Yeah.
I had to get used to all the women staff, because we're all women besides myself in the company, as opposed to I was used to entirely men.
And we're different every time of the month, especially me.
I won't say anything on that, but...
you never know what you're going to get.
I mean, just in general, communication styles were the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Like because I'm South African and this sounds like a cop-out, but generally we're more blunt, we're more...
You are blunt.
You said that. Sometimes abrasive and things like that. And in the IT world, everything is spoken with a lot of fact to it. Like, this is right, this is wrong. There's not much gray in that area. And so my discussions with all of the people there were quite native to me or natural to me because I just spoke in the way that I always have. And I didn't have to think about communication styles. And I've come across to this company, obviously we've got more employees, as I said, they're female, and they have different communication styles. Everyone in the company is
Everyone
different
has
one.
different communication styles. Every male and female has different things. How does a person take feedback? How does the person take criticism? How do the people need to hear those things? That's different for everyone, and you need to know your employees in order to work with them well. You need to know the way they take things. You need to know how to do that, and everyone does that differently, and that's how you really become a good manager as well, is being able to do that. The thing that I struggled the most in our relationship was there's not much of a switch off for Tom. Like, we'll be conversation about our relationship, all of a sudden he'd be like, oh, in regards to blah blah blah, I'd be like, we're not working right now, like, why are you bringing up work? And so that's one thing I would really struggle with, is like our relationship, we didn't have much of one last year because we were working 60-hour weeks, doing new software, at least, with kids, new software. We sold a house, we moved into a new house.
We moved houses 4 times.
We started BB Kids, a new company. We restructured all of BB and gutted it. So our relationship was on the back burner, and don't get me wrong, we did break up a couple times for like 24 hours. I broke up with him because I was just pissed off. And that's because like we were just so burnt out. We had nothing to give to the relationship, but we knew long term that this is what we needed to do in order to have an easy life. Like my favorite quote, hard decisions, easy life, easy decisions, hard life. And so we dealt with shit for 2 years, fixing everything so that we could have an easy life. And we're at a point now, like, where we can step back and we can watch the company grow if we want. We don't have to be managers. We've got everything in place where we can watch it scale and watch it grow. And if people leave, we have a replacement, and everyone in the company's happy and they love their job. And that's obviously everything I dreamed of. And now we just, we can finally be at that point where we can scale the company and make it grow and enjoy watching it thrive.
Yeah, 100%. One of the points I wanted to touch on there was, as you're saying, like, and to be honest, this is one of those things where it's do as I say, not do as I do. The idea for people who are in these situations, and one of the things that we did struggle with was, okay, when's the switch off time? And so, lots of people have discussed this about just even working from home, right? Is maybe have an office, which is the place that you do work. When you leave that office, you stop working. Yep. And so lots of people do that when they do have relationships that are sharing a company or something like ours, where they go, okay, between these hours is work time, outside of that's not. And that is unusual for me because of my background, that I would work or get called into work at 2:00 in the morning and get woken up and have to go to a site somewhere. And so because I've been doing that for 12 years now that I've been working at Mobile Logica, it's ingrained in me that I don't have a work mode and a non-work mode, it's just all me. And so I didn't ever turn off, but I never had to turn on either. I was just ready to talk about work, and it didn't stress me or create as much of a strain on me because I've been so acclimatized to it. But learning that, no, that's actually not healthy for everyone else. And me trying to hold my tongue when I'm like, I've got these 3 things I really want to ask you or talk to you about the company.
And you're so excited. I'm just like, do you even love me anymore?
Yeah,
do you even want to watch this movie? Like, do you see me romantically?
Yeah, and I'd be like, I just want to talk about this new product idea or some silly thing.
I was getting so angry.
And I hold my tongue a lot more now because I understand that.
And your work-life balance is a lot better now. Like, I sat down with you and I said, like,
ain't working.
We can't do this. Like, we need time together every day, and the kids need time with us every single day. So we need to find that. You finish work most days around 4 or 5 p.m, whereas he used to work all the way up until about 8, 9 p.m. every single night. I'm not joking. 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. was his normal, without those breaks for me or for the kids. And I think that was really definitely the stepping stone that made our relationship work.
Oh, and getting weekends back, because the 8 to 8 was weekends too.
Yeah.
And now the first step was getting our weekends back, which we got back a little while ago. And yeah, it's actually lovely because the company, both mine and yours, sorry, not mine and yours, but all the companies that I'm a part of are like in a position now where, yes, I want to work on them. Yes, my work does have active positive outcomes for it. But if I
it's not in daily operations.
Yeah, if I stop at 4 p.m, I stop at 4 p.m. It's not going to affect somebody else being able to do their job anymore, which it used to be. Everything that I used to have at Balanced Beans was, okay, if I don't answer this, that person's just waiting for me to answer that question.
Whereas we're not part of daily operations anymore. I still get to see clients, but like I have a choice in that. Whereas everything else I do, I'm like, if I don't feel my best, then that week the company just doesn't grow and get better. And that's such a nice feeling knowing that like I have the option to work a little bit less, and I work more the weeks to catch up because I feel like it and I can do what my body feels, because you're never going to be on all the time and you can't expect your body to always be on when it needs to rest. So what I wanted to talk a bit about now is your first impression of naturopathy when you first started, when you first met me, what your thoughts were and where your current mind is now.
Well, I think like most people, I kind of had a more general view on naturopathy where I didn't like have that much involvement in it. My mum's a bit into like naturopathy and homeopathy and things of that nature. And I guess my understanding of it was very not in depth. I had a very shallow understanding of what it was and how it was done in Australia. And I thought it was a bit woo-woo at the start. And then the more we kind of talked, and we did have a lot of discussions about the amount of studies that were in and stuff like that, because I'm always very factual based. And the more you explained and the more understanding that I had, and then once I started working at the company, obviously that understanding of the job grew exponentially. And then I was getting the understanding of, okay, well, you're doing university courses. I didn't know that. I didn't know like the new wave of naturopathy is university based. I didn't know that recent changes is now that you even covered under health insurances and things like that. So I was unaware of that level of investment in this side of health.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't, I've always been against anecdotal evidence, but I can't debate the evidence that you've shown me through the clinic. Not, and it is anecdotal, I'll admit that openly, but the amount of people that I've gotten the emails from
We have
of
over
their
250
results.
reviews, you know what I mean? Like, you
Like,
can't...
the results are insane.
That's one clinic.
Yeah.
So so many thousands of people are getting changed every single year from naturopathy, and it's absolutely amazing. It's not just one thing that we're looking at, it's so many different things. And obviously when you're looking at those test results, you're getting so much insight about what's going on in their body, and you can really help them so much more.
I think the testing thing was the biggest thing for me. Is
Yeah.
all my experience with naturopathy through my mother was the old school version where you come around, I tell you some symptoms, and you kind of, I mean, pretty much randomly are suggesting things. Whereas this new wave is, no, I've got test results. I know that your iron is out or whatever it might be. And then you know how to fix it. Like, it's very specific. It's not nearly what it used to be.
And with BB, like, for people that say they don't know balanced beings, which is what BB stands for, can you explain the way our company works in like simple terms for like people that are looking at it from an outside, how it kind of works and what kind of is involved in the different sides, who runs what versus what I run, and what you do versus what I do?
Yeah, got you. So our titles and our roles don't always align perfectly, but I'm basically the managing director. Your title-wise is director and principal naturopath. And realistically, what the differences are is when it comes to things like staff management, if it comes to anything financial, if it comes to how the IT side of anything in the company, obviously with my IT background goes, I'm doing that side, or any of the procedures, any complaints, anything where we're not sure how to manage a part of the company, that's where I'm going to be taking the lead. And if it comes to anything that is more creative based or obviously naturopathic based, then you're 100% taking the lead.
Podcast hosting, podcast organizing, any content that goes out, creative side of things.
But I mean, and with that, even when it gets to the IT side, even as micro as that is, then it's handed over to me. Oh, okay, well, the podcast is filmed. Now, Tom, okay, you've got to do the upload. You've got to like manage where the files are stored and all of that lazy stuff.
The analytics of meta ads and all of that,
Analytics
and like how that works. He does all the analytics and the numbers, because I don't have any understanding of meta ads, but I'll do all the creative for it. So we kind of really work as a team, and we pull apart each job specifically for what I'm good at and what he's good at. Because when I'll do something, it'll take me 1/10 of the time it takes him, because I know how to do it. So it just makes better sense for our time management to pull apart the jobs. Yeah. And that's what works for us.
It does. It makes it like a little questioning. And it's, as I said, like the roles and responsibilities versus the titles don't really correlate, because it is like we're actually very fine tooth and comb, or whatever the saying is, going through and like really breaking things apart into this part of this job is your preference and this part of that job is mine.
And so if someone else was thinking about hiring their partner, what would be your advice, and where would you say they should or shouldn't hire their partner?
I think if you're using the word hire, you shouldn't. I think, I mean, even in the way the question is worded, if you're looking at it as a hire, not a partnership, then I just don't think it'll work. I never think those types of relationships work. I don't even have those types of relationships with my friends.
I feel like it's I own it, and then I'm telling you what to do. Whereas me and Tom don't work like that. He's not an employee. He owns part of the company.
I don't think it would work any other way, because if it is that hierarchical relationship, I mean,
then
you can't help but have that.
Your own romantic relationship's going to mold into that. It's not like a collaboration.
Yeah, the power dynamic is there. It always will be there, and it's impossible not to be, especially if company blows up and suddenly is making millions of dollars. Say you're starting an ice cream business with your partner and you're hiring them and they get paid every day, but then you start making a whole bunch of money. How is that fair?
Yeah. I think what you also need to think about is why you're hiring them, and if it's for the right reasons. If Tom didn't happen to have all the pros of the cons I had, I wouldn't have had him in part of the company. Sorry, I keep saying hire, but it's not what I mean. I wouldn't have him in the company if he didn't have benefit to the company. That's a fact. Like, your time is better spent elsewhere if we got the same pros. I don't need more of the pros that I've got.
Yeah, I think that's in general can be spoken to any hiring procedures really, that in general, if you've got really good person at marketing, don't hire another really good person at marketing. And if you're big enough where you're hiring multiple marketing people, that's fine, but then make that a smaller thing. Don't make it, I'm hiring for marketing. There's a Meta person and there's a Google person. Like start dividing it so that you're not hiring people who overlap, because then you're just wasting talent.
Yep. And the one thing I love about Tom is it helps me see things from a different perspective with his like really financial background, like the things that I do that might not have been the best, like decisions, like financially, like I love to open up a bit more about that side of things as well. Like, for example, like why we decided, like, why don't we use the example that's more like to do with us, like why we rent this house that we live in and we don't own it. Like, why did we decide to do that?
Yeah, I mean, that one's going to be a widely debated one across many people, because lots of people don't like this kind of approach, but we decided to do what lots of people call rent vesting, right? Which is basically we're renting the primary place of residence and using the capital that we would have put into our primary place of residence into investments. And the idea there basically being that we get to live where we want, we get to live how we want, and has no effect on how we're using or capitalizing, excuse the pun, on our capital.
Well, I think that people, like, we could have bought this house in where we wanted to live, but we didn't want to do that because our money is better spent elsewhere. So, like, our money is going to grow quicker in other areas that it is currently in than having it in a higher end property, right?
Yeah.
So, like, can you explain that more? Because that's how we work in business as well. Like, I feel like we make financial, like, the things that we make are, like, they're not just, like, cliche, we should do this.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like that needs to be explained a little bit more, because that's also one of the reasons I wanted you part of the company.
So ROI basically is the return on investment. So as the property value goes up, a $2 million house is going to have a lower ROI than an $800,000 house. And so we're able to move that equity to a location where we're getting higher ROI while we're living in a place that has low ROI. So equivalently, we're going to be in a better financial position if you're talking purely on a number scheme. And then on top of that, it actually gives you more, not pure numbers, but more flexibility with things like loans and things like that, where sometimes, especially, I mean, as business owners, getting loans isn't easy. And so that kind of flexibility is also a massive
the reason I love this as well is because, like, for right now, like, one of the properties I have in where I used to live before I met Tom, it's rented out. And so it's rented out, which means they're paying off my mortgage. And so the reason that that's helpful is because if I want to go buy another house, then my serviceability is not impacted. Whereas if I lived in the house that I owned, then the bank's going to be like, okay, well, you can't pay back this loan because you've got to pay back this mortgage. Whereas if you're renting, the bank will be like, okay, well, she's renting this house, which means she gets the full serviceability back, because obviously when she buys a house or buys this little unit, whatever I buy, I get that serviceability back. So the ability to grow wealth, and, you know, if you're doing the property side of things, is just so much better if you're actually renting where you're living, because you can get bank approval so much easier. Yeah. Which is crazy. I
would say it is very dependent on situation. Sometimes buying is better.
Yeah.
It's not always the case.
Yeah.
Just in our specific scenario, on a purely financial decision-making basis is what we did. And that's just so we have more ability to do what we need or what we want with the growth of business.
That's what I like about you as well, is, like, I see a different side of money and finances, and, like, BB operates differently than it did before. It's not just about money or any of those things. It's the way we see money is different too, I feel like, in BB.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's a very difficult concept to explain, I think, which is unfortunate, but the approach to money is kind of, or the way you were approaching money previously, is on a very kind of in and out, and you need to have green. Basically, at the end of the day, you need to be sitting in the green. And the way I'm looking at money is more about what the money is achieving. So if, for example, we're paying staff, we have senior naturopaths, right? Is one of the great examples that we have now, where we didn't previously, you would help train the girls up. Once they're trained up, they'd be operating. Whereas now we have this amazing facility for all of our nats, where they have highly experienced senior naturopaths in the team that they can go to on certain times of the day, and go and ask questions. What do I do about this very difficult client that I'm dealing with? And on a purely return on investment style approach, during that time, we are paying a senior naturopath and we're getting nothing in return. That is purely red money. But on the flip side, it's a massive benefit to patient outcome. It's a massive benefit to staff happiness. It's a massive benefit to basically sellability of what our product is that we get these seniors in. And all of that contributes to a brand and a company, and it can't just all be if the money's going out, it has to have something coming in from it. Sometimes you have these costs that are statics, but they are actually providing value outside of income generating, which is really important, because that's really, I mean, a lot of admin just in general is that kind of cost where it's a static cost. It's out but not in, but it's allowing that in to take place. And it's a really difficult concept to get a hold of, but I think it's really important as well.
And like that's one thing, like so many people don't want to hire people that are static costs, but what they don't realize is that's not actually allowing them to grow. Like if I never had a clinic manager or admin working in our company, then I never would have had time to do structures, policies, change software, change integrations, all of that. So I think that's something that people forget is like you need static cost.
Well, that's just the next stage of business growth, right? It's delegation.
Yeah.
Once you get to a certain point, you've really got to work out what you as the business owner, what your value in time is.
Yeah.
And go, if I can pay an admin person $30, $40 an hour to go and do the job, and that gives me more time to go see clients, and I can get $200 an hour, it's a no-brainer. So when you say it like that, it's a no-brainer.
So when people aren't sure if they're ready to take that step, how do you know that that's the right step for them to take to delegate? How do they know that they're at that point? Because so many people are so scared to do that next step because it's scary.
I mean, I definitely don't debate. It's probably one of the scariest things you're ever going to do in running a business is the delegation portion. I think the biggest change is when you are certain that that time, if you got it back, would be used better. That's the question. If you can say with certainty that if I'm not spending my time doing this admin task, I would be able to do something that would generate either better business growth, it would generate more income, like for you seeing more patients. You know, as a fact, if you spend that hour seeing a patient versus doing that admin work, you're making more money. There's a better result. If that's the case, it's an easy answer. If that answer isn't yes, if it's I don't know what I would do with my spare time, then no, you're probably not ready to take that step.
Definitely. Other thing I wanted to chat about, I wanted this to be for the naturopaths or people that are watching that are running a business that might want to look at all the things we did change and all the softwares we currently have in place for the company to work. I'd love to chat a bit more about that so that people know what we use and all of those insiders to help them grow their business. So what did we change and what are all the softwares or everything we currently use for the company to work?
Yeah, I mean...
Because he's the one that does all of this, Baba. He's operations.
Yeah,
he makes everything gel together.
With the support team, obviously.
Yes.
I think we started with Clinico and Shopify, which were basically the only two systems that you operated. You had some others for
like
education, like Klaviyo, things like Thinkific. And then when I came along, one of the first things that we did was fully integrate a warehouse stock management and order management software called Inflow, which was very important. So that's tracking how much stock you have, when you need to reorder it, how long it's going to last, how much you have, what the value of it is, all of that kind of stuff, hugely important. That now integrates with, and again, all of these are kind of integrated through various means. That also integrates with Ozpost. We also now have Shopify integrating directly with Ozpost. So we still use Shopify. We moved off Clinico to Practice Better. Yep. That was a very big move. And it is more expensive, but it was basically a move due to just features more than anything.
Snippets.
The snippets was huge, right? Time saving. And that, the feature set on Practice Better was significant enough to us that even though it is more expensive, it was definitely a worthwhile move. We did use Heidi Health for a while, but we've actually moved on to Practice Better AI. So AI charting is a really big thing for us, which gives the girls a lot more time in their consults to be present with their patients, which is huge. a lot of the other integrations that we have, to be honest, have been very nerdy backend. So it's not necessarily us just using a system, but things like integrations within Shopify. We have something called order printing, which I manually coded some stuff. I'm not going to get too deep into it, that it extracts information from orders to create us labels so that they can be applied to all of the custom-made products that we make. There's Zapier is a system that uses API integrations. Again, that's just connecting two systems from an IT perspective. We use that to move some of our information from certain platforms to other platforms.
How? What?
Through APIs.
No, but like what software to what software, and what are we integrating between that we'd have to manually do instead?
So,
like, how did you fix that?
Things like Practice Better is where the clients will book in, right? That's where their information is going to get kept initially. And when they go to create that order for them, we need that information, like their name and their email, so that we can send them the order to be in Shopify, which is where we handle our order system. So something like Zapier was what we used to extract the information, the name and the email, and put it into Shopify so that we can just go into Shopify. You know their name's going to be there. You open their name and you send them the thing. And you also know that you're not going to do a copy-paste error. You didn't know we did that? No, that was a big one. A big win for me. Not hard to implement, but a big win for me.
The big thing I think was game changer is the shipping label integration. Not from Ozpost to Shopify, but the label that gets made for the herbs.
Yeah, so that was the one I was saying before, the code that I had to raw code, which was
so explain
not very
what we
easy
were
to
doing
explain.
before versus what we do now.
I mean, basically, it used to be that there was a few steps. Initially, it was handwritten labels that every time you'd have to write all the ingredients, the date, the names, all of that stuff, which was time consuming to say the least.
Take an hour.
And then we moved to the next stage, which is I created like a Word doc template, and we used a thermal printer to print the labels, which I thought was quite a good improvement. But again, that one was basically copy-paste errors, constant copy-paste errors.
People would make 3 the same herbal. Shoot me.
And so
I hated that.
That was a systematic problem though, right? It was so easy to make that mistake that it wasn't a staff problem, it was a procedure problem. I made a mistake and we went down the wrong path, and so we came back and I went, okay, I need a different approach to this. Unfortunately, that approach was a little more complex and took a lot more time to actually implement, which is why that was there for a little while. But then eventually we got to this automated system where, as long as our admin is typing in their names or their herbals appropriately in the system, which they obviously are double checking anyway and doing, then at the end of the day, you click the orders that you want and you click print and it prints your labels. Yeah. And it's that simple. And that was a big one. So it's all those small things. Although our main systems, obviously, as I said, we changed Practice Better. We're still using Klaviyo and we're still using Shopify. Those systems are good, but it's the connections. Those connections is the thing that like really changes work pathways and workflows.
There's so little room for error now that we don't have constant problems. I got the wrong order. Why was 3 herbs made? Why do we have all these extra stock that was done wrong? Like, why? Like, there's so much. There's like, when systems and operations work properly, there's less errors in the company, less problems to deal with, which means less time for me to fix problems constantly. I felt like last year I was dealing with always a problem. Sorry, the year before that, when we didn't have systems or operations in place. So what would you say the difference between, in your point of view, in your words, between operations versus business structure?
Like the difference in what way?
Well, like, what does operations mean to you versus business structure, and like, what does that look like for BB?
Yeah, so I mean, business structure wise, we worked on both of these individually.
Yeah.
And the business structure side was really creating things like hierarchies, which is, I think, important. So that was the division of what we were talking about before between our roles, but then also making that clear and understood across the company. If admin needs to go to answer a question about a problem to do with shipping, Tom's the person to talk to. Yes. If it's, there's this weird naturopath supplement that they prescribed, I don't know if they're meant to have this. I don't know what their questions might be. Senior naturopath. Like, there's a clear line of hierarchy and structure that would be from the employees and the internal system side. Obviously, we did also make more complex business and entity type changes as well in terms of business structure. We're previously operating as a trust, and I had some in-depth discussions with our accountants about changing that and the reasons for changing that. And so we've changed the way that all of these entities interact with each other. A lot of that is to do with security of the company, security of yourself and your own assets and what you own, and making sure that that's not liable for anything that goes wrong. Asset protection is just a really big and important one, and liability protection is huge. So that structure all changed. And then operations wise, that's just talking about like the day-to-day kind of what happens every day, how is it done, when's it done, who's it done by. And that's SOPs, SOP, standard, oh God, I'm going to forget what SOP stands for now. Standard operations.
Procedures?
Standard operational procedures. And so like the SOPs being in place, not only so that they know how to do their tasks, because they do all get trained up on this, but also, okay, well, if something goes wrong, what do I do? Who do I speak to? And that's, I suppose, where the overlap kind of takes place, is either empowering them to be able to fix their own problems or knowing who to talk to if they can't fix their own problems.
100%. What do you think the biggest challenge has been for you that you weren't expecting running a health business brand company instead of IT?
That would definitely be that difference coming from like all males in an IT field where they're blunt, they're logical, it's just facts only. And that's, as I said before, communication style doesn't matter really. And now I'm working with people who are dealing with people's health, which is a big thing. Like that's obviously in the IT world, I'm dealing with like outages that affect hundreds of thousands of people, and it's important. But if no one has internet, that's fine. It's not really the end of the world. Whereas in health, if you're making mistakes or you're not doing the best thing for a client, that's somebody's health. That's the most important thing ever. So it's the stakes, I guess, got a bit higher. The idea of getting used to communication styles with a whole bunch of different people who are all very different as well, because our warehouse team have very different personalities to our admin team, who have very different personalities to you, who have very different personalities to the rest of the practitioners. And trying to go, okay, I need to not only communicate with these people, but I need to understand every person's individual perspective, how they're going to want to communicate with me, and then be able to take that on in whatever fashion suits them, which from what we were saying before with the manager, I think that's probably one of the hardest things, is the person who's higher up, or the manager or the business owner, is the person who's got to make the move. You can't expect your staff to make that move to suit your communication style or your preferences. They obviously got to follow their job and do their roles properly, but when it comes to things like communication, how they take feedback, stuff like that, you're the one who's got to shift to meet them at their eye level. And that's difficult when you're getting used to it, especially when those differences vary dramatically. And sometimes you just have to kind of suck it up. Like sometimes it does suck. Sometimes you're not going to be able to communicate the way that you want, or it's going to feel frustrating not being able to do that. But that's your job. That's at the end of the day, that's what's important for you to be able to do, so that they're all happy and able to do their jobs the best.
100%. Where do you feel like you add the most value in the company?
I think I am probably going to be the most, like not calm, but like consistently the same. I don't really go and have good days and bad days and get angry and then sad or whatever with different members of the team, or on how I feel about the company's operations. I'm not going to go, oh, I really don't like the company today one day. You know what I mean? Which I know sometimes you feel not too.
You trying to dig at me right now?
Maybe a little. Which obviously sometimes you have good days and bad days where you love the company or you're not happy with it and things like that. And I think my ability to be just really based around nothing but the logic and the facts of the situation is something that is just probably more of a trait that masculine people have. And me obviously being the only masculine figure in the company, I think I get to kind of draw that line in the middle and give that consistency that everyone can reference off of. And that makes it like, it's just a nice difference of energy in the company that people get to have. And it means that, unfortunately, that also does mean that sometimes I have to be the bad guy because I am that consistency, right?
Yeah.
But it's lovely because it means that then you can have better relationships with your Nats, or the Nats can have better relationships with each other, because I'm that solid, I'm that consistency, I'm that glue in the middle that kind of gives everyone the separation they need.
100%. Now, with small businesses, what do you feel like policies or structures, not just BB, but other companies that are watching, do you think that they've probably neglected? Like HR or policy structure, do you think people need to think about small businesses that they're probably not doing?
Yeah, I think it's very individualized, to be honest, in my opinion. As a small company, and this is why I never really said that I think you did anything wrong with your startup of BB. Like, you'd pushed it a little further than most because your success trajectory at the start was insane. Like, it was 2 years or 4 years, 4 years before I hopped on, and the trajectory during that 4-year path was just skyrocketing.
We grew 400% every single year for 4 years straight.
Which is mind-boggling, right? And so, because you had such a just consistent great trend, that's, I think, why you got to this tipping point earlier than most. Whereas I think for most businesses, it's fine to go into it and not have all these procedures in place. Like, you can't go in day one, because you'll spend a year.
Early.
You'll literally spend a year trying to fix all of this stuff and get procedures in place before starting, and then you'll find out they're wrong anyway.
Yeah.
So don't rush into doing everything that you don't need at the time. Focus on what your current need is, and then implement that need. And by the time you finish that, there's going to be another need.
Yeah.
And so
you just keep working through different things until there's eventually nothing left to
it's
fix.
just a prioritized task list, and you just go well, there's always going to be something to fix, in my opinion. And not fix in a bad way, fix to make better. It can be that it's fine now, but it can be improved, and it's just a hierarchical thing.
And I think what people need to remember is the quicker your business grows and the faster your business grows, the quicker it's going to crash. Like, it is a fact. Like, if you don't have the proper boundaries, the proper things in place, you don't have HR, you don't have policies, you don't have procedures if something goes wrong, if you end up with Fair Work Ombudsman, or you don't have the right policies, you are going to be fucked. You need to have these things, and if your business is growing quicker, don't just keep having no stock inventory. Don't just keep having no policies and procedures and just wait for something to go wrong, because it will happen. It's just a matter of time. You need to have the policies and procedures in place, and I think that's what I wish someone taught me earlier. Is I was like, yeah, the company's going so well, let's keep growing, let's keep growing, let's keep going. And I just abandoned everything that actually mattered, which is why the company was so fragile. I was like, well, it's going well, nothing's going to go wrong. Nothing goes wrong to me. I was just doing my affirmations. No. Something will eventually go wrong, and you need to make sure that you're ready for it.
But even in saying that, like, obviously, you're not always going to be the person, as a business owner, you're not the perfect person. You're not going to be able to do everything, right? And so when you get to those points, like what you're saying, you got to that point, but you're not even if you knew that at the time, you weren't the person to implement that.
Yeah.
You needed to know to find good people. And to be honest, my personal opinion of the business owners is the hiring is the single most important job you will ever do as a business owner, is hiring the right people. Because and this is a really generic opinion. I mean, everyone who's watched business podcasts would have heard this 100 times over, right? But it's important. And it's really, really important. It's something that we got better at last year. I think I got lucky in my last company that all the hires I got have been really, really good. And then we came here, and we're just doing more hiring than what I had done previously.
We know now our perfect hire.
And it took us some trial and error, for sure.
We know the questions to ask.
Yeah.
We've gone through enough people to know the exact person we'd love for us to work with us.
And I think...
But we needed to learn those lessons.
The thing that we learned was that, yes, you can have an idea of this person they need to have done exactly these things, and it's all performance-based criteria that we start listing them by. And then we
doesn't actually matter.
That's not the most important thing. Everyone's trainable in performance categories. Like, obviously to a limitation, like you can't take someone who's really, really bad at a job and make them really, really good.
You can't make someone a salesperson.
Yeah, but you can take their personality and their attitude and their want to be in the position. That's more important. And so, like, for instance, for us hiring in the warehouse, we went off board and started looking at, okay, well, why don't we hire people who are warehouse people? And it wasn't appropriate because we're in a health field, and hiring people who care about the end result and the customers and the clients and the patients is really important, because that care and that seriously, naturopath students is the way forward, because the alignment with the company's direction and the company's decision making, because we have a very consistent alignment with what we care about. We care about staff happiness, we care about client outcomes. Those are like, we need to have every single staff member on board with that. And if they're not on board with that, then it's the wrong position for you. And that's the number one thing that we need to pay attention to.
For me is one thing that you taught me about the one bad egg. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Basically that...
Because that's what happened.
More than one, but yeah, one sour egg can ruin it all, right? And it's basically the idea that if you have this one bad person,
one really negative person,
they can ruin an entire atmosphere. And I had a very good example from my last job, where I had a whole bunch of trades working with us, and I was kind of hands-on with them in the field. And every single day we'd go out, and there was this one guy who would just, because I was very young at the time, I was the boss, but I was like 24 years old, and he just had no respect for me because of my age. Every single time he'd question me, oh, I'm not going to do it the way you want, oh, I'm not going to do this. And eventually I had a few conversations with him here and there going, look, like, you need to pull your head in. You can't, I'm your boss. You've got to still treat me like a boss. I don't care about the age gap, because he was a lot older than me. He was in his 50s or something. Yeah. And that didn't work. And everyone else started working a lot worse. And all these other trades started slacking off or started to make complaints as well. And I was very fortunate that one of them came and spoke to me about it. And he's like, look, like, I can see that you're struggling with this. You just need to have actually stop him doing this, because I can see that it's affecting all of us. And I'm glad that guy spoke to me, and I got rid of the bad egg. And literally the next couple weeks were the best weeks we had the entire project, because everyone worked better, everyone was happier, everyone was friendlier. The entire atmosphere changed just by getting rid of that one bad egg, because it can really change. It's like the affirmations thing. If you say it over and over again, that one person saying it over and over again, this is bad, the boss hates you, you're a bad human, all these horrible things, makes you think it's true. Yeah. And it's not.
100%. While we're on that topic, how do you fix company morale and team culture? Like, what are the steps if someone is really struggling in their company? Slowly.
Unfortunately, the answer is slowly.
It doesn't happen overnight.
It definitely doesn't happen overnight. Leading on from what we're saying, I think it's kind of like there's a few steps to take. The first one is to get rid of the bad eggs. The people who, no matter how much you try, and do try first. Definitely put effort in to try this with everyone. But if you've put in your effort and these people are non-stop going to be complaining, they come in every day with a bad attitude, you need to get rid of those people quick. Hire quick, fire quicker is something I heard from Gary Vaynerchuk a very long time ago. And it doesn't mean that you need to get rid of people who are part of your company really quickly. But as soon as you find these big red flags that are not changeable in certain individuals, you need to be able to move on from that pretty quickly. And that's the first really big step.
That's one thing that I love in a positive note is, and I say this to my friends all the time, you get into a really good position in life, and you get really high in people's companies and people's businesses by having the right work attitude and personality. If you're happy and you're positive and you're always willing to help out and you're just like a happy person, you're going to get way further than any of your performance will, because you can teach performance. And that's why I always say to my friends, if you want to go really far in life, be a good person, be nice, and have a positive attitude towards work.
I think that's very true.
It's so underestimated.
I think it is extremely underestimated. A very common thing I hear is people saying it's about who you know, not what you know.
Yep.
And the what you know part, I very much agree with. And don't get me wrong, knowing people is very helpful in lots of facets. But being a good person, a nice person to be around, and all those things gets you that as well. You're going to get to know the right people if everyone wants to be around you. Like, you're going to have everyone want to help you out. When we've been looking at houses, for God's sake, I've gone and had some terrible interactions with real estate agents, and I will literally not buy a house based on the fact that it was a bad agent who was rude to me on the door.
Literally.
And I've been willing to spend more when it's a good agent. Like, his attitude has affected my willingness to spend a lot of money on something.
So with that, how do you change is there any tips you could give to change company morale, like slowly over time? Like what are the actual physical tips someone could use?
I mean,
this will be our last question on this potty, and then we're going to move on. We're going to do a little segment podcast that's going to be about 20 minutes. That's like how our relationship works after this podcast, just so we've segmented it for you guys. But yeah, I want like any tips that you can actually use, because I feel like our company's morale and
it's so much better,
and like their love for their job is completely different to how it was 2 years ago. But how do we actually get there? What do we do slowly?
I mean, after you get rid of the people who are being negative, then you're able to probably that's a good time to get the feedback you need from the people. Like everyone in the company used to give feedback, and that's one of the first things I said to everyone in the team is I had a meeting when I first joined. Every single individual, I gave them an hour to offload. Yep. What do you and don't you like?
Fix the things they don't like. Yes, you can't have a perfect business, but if people aren't happy enough to leave, you need to fix the things that they don't like. People should only be leaving if they have a better fit and more niche clinic, or they should be leaving because there's like some stress in the family, or they're pregnant, having another baby, whatnot. Like if there's any other reason, like they're stressed, they're burnt out, they're fatigued, then you need to fix that in the company.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously you're not going to be able to say yes to everything that people ask. There's obviously always going to be that line that you have to draw in the sand. But even the expression of listening to them is a huge step in that. The rest of it, I think, is kind of top-down approach to attitude. And so if you, at the top of the food chain, are looking down and you're being mean to the staff underneath, that you are constantly at their neck going, you've done this wrong, you've done this wrong, you've done this wrong, never giving praise, that's going to create this really negative cycle where they're going to be negative to everyone beneath them, because they're going to get in trouble too if they don't do it.
Yeah. And you also, like, even if someone has said something that might upset you as a manager, you're the manager. Like, you need to do better to get over that. Don't hold a grudge. You can't hold grudges. Think about all the positive things that they've actually done in the company to make the company better as well.
Yeah. Be private about the mistakes that people make, and be very vocal in public about the wins that they have.
Yeah.
Is one of the biggest things that we try to do.
Yeah. And going into that, that's exactly like how a relationship should be as well, which we'll go into in another little mini podcast that we're going to do a little mini segment on how we actually make our relationship work from the business we have together. So thanks so much for joining us on today's podcast, Tom. We definitely rambled on for a while. So if you're still with us, thanks for joining in, and may your days be balanced and your weeks be healthy.